Welcome back to the channel, guys. Here we have a Ducati Diavel 1200cc. This is a 2010. I just picked it up. This is how I got the bike. It belonged to Francesca in Frederick, Maryland. She rode this, rain or shine and even snow. That's right. She rode this thing in the snow. I'll put a link to her Instagram in the screen and in the description, just so you guys can see how she rode this. I do admire when people get bikes like Ducatis and they just ride the living snot out of them. That is what happened with this. She took this and she commuted. She commuted in DC, she commuted all over the place, she pleasure ride. And that is nice to see because a lot of these bikes are garage quids. I don't want to stack tons of miles on this particular bike. I know how expensive parts are and I don't know too much about Ducatis. This is my first Ducati. And it's a crazy first. Normally when people get a first Ducati, they'll get like the Ducati Monster. I mean, just looking at that frame, how it holds the motor, you know, like these type of frames, they're up here and they just hold the motor. So the motor is highlighted for motorcycle riders. That's something I really appreciate about a lot of manufacturers. They make the motor beautiful. And Ducati, they make the frame and they show off that engine as much as possible, because the engine on these particular Ducatis is an incredible L-twin. That awesome, beautiful exhaust coming out of that engine. That's Ducati for you. They make bikes beautiful. You might not like the Diavel. You might think that this is an ugly Ducati. I personally think it is a beautiful, awesome looking bike. But just look at the exhaust, look at the frame, look at the motor, and how they incorporate design. Another thing that Ducati is known is the single-sided swing arm. On this particular bike, it's a massive, massive rear wheel, 240. Now we will be removing the tail bags because I just want to show off the bike. And tail bags, if you're a commuter, those things are completely the most usable things you could possibly have. But for me, this is an aesthetic bike. I like the looks of it, so I don't want to keep the saddlebags on this. I might put it on one of my scooters. This tire is absolutely massive. Stock, this thing came with a hugger, and I did go to Francesca's house where I bought the bike, and I got that hugger. I plan on putting it here. She put it's one of these foldable license plate things, and what happens is that this is too bouncy, so I'm going to be removing that. It destroyed this fender, so we're either going to have to buy a new one or cut it. I'm just going to cut it. I'm just going to circle around. We got a little bit of a seam breaking here. So when you notice the seat right here, there's another line that was stitched in, and I don't know if the seat has been modified from stock. If you know if the seat was modified from stock, post up in the comments, because I do not know that. I believe it looks a little bit smaller than the photos I've seen in other Diavels. So we're missing a few bolts here and there, but we're going to be pulling all of this plastic out to clean. So this is kind of an interesting thing that Motorola, he came over and he pointed it out. There is a passenger grab handle that is modular. It moves up and down, and under the seat there is the mechanism that retracts it. The rear tail lights and blinkers are incorporated into these side pieces. It does come with a keyless ignition, but the keyless ignition system is completely destroyed. We can't use this, but it does have a key, and you need a key for the gas and for the seat. Here is where the key would go. And you see, like, it kind of just gets in the way, and there we go. Turn it. Lift up. Let's put that aside. Right in here, you have a knob, and it says unlock and pull. So this is the grab rails, and when you pull on that, you can retract it. But underneath the seat, you do have something I do like. Fuses, very easy to get to. But we do have quite a bit of dirt right here. So all of the stuff we're gonna pull out. We have a bolt that's broken into the gas tank itself. For the engine, you have a little bell. It's one of those bike bells. You have soft or hard, and we do have a little bit of an oil leak, which is coming from this gasket. We're also missing some bolts here, but this, I believe, is where the battery is. She had put plastic dip coating on the tank, so she removed it, and there was some light rust in the bolts, but not much anywhere else. This is like one of the biggest issues, which is not that big of a deal. We'll have to scrape this out. The clear coat is coming out of this lower screen, and this is like where it shows you the modes and information. You can barely tell. You would have to cover it like this in order to tell indicators, oil, fuel. I do not know if this one's got a fuel gauge, but I don't think it does. Another thing that's really strange is that there's an on-off button here, and you can barely get your adult finger onto this. So you also have, I never had a Ducati, so I don't know how a lot of these are, but the quality is just so bad. We're going to see if we can fix some of the articulation of that. The way Ducati designed this, the kill switch, you pull it up to reveal the starter, but I have average size hands, and to get inside, if you have gloves and stuff, you can't actually push it enough to hit the starter. So here you have something very different than most Japanese bikes. You have a passing button for your headlights, and then you push it down to turn on your high beams, and you can cancel it again. I think that has happened is that the DOT brake fluid has kind of like left, and this is what happens if you leave brake fluid on any metal. It eats away the paint. Windscreen, that's actually pretty effective. I'm right now debating whether remove it or leave it. Battery's a little weak. With Ducati, they're known to make beautiful bikes, and this is a beautiful bike. You might not like it itself, but design-wise, it's really interesting, and it's got a killer motor. But one thing that they did that just doesn't make sense is this. Passenger foot pad. Look at this. They made a kickstand out of a passenger foot pad. It just doesn't make sense why they would make something so ugly. Here's a hex. do it. Now I haven't gotten around to the Desmo stuff, but this cylinder, that's the button you have to push now to start the bike. So after doing all of this, removing the tank, I realized that the air filter is actually here. So it's right in here. We just gotta get that. But before you start yanking on it, there's 2 bolts. I think somebody was trying to get the filter out and use the wrong key, and this is the screen that needs a lot of work. So that's the screen that's all blurry. I don't want to get any. Try and get rid of that clear coat. So just by removing that, I can still see the clear coat. So I am almost done with this. I actually used 400 grit. Now with the 500, 400, 500, I'm going to switch to the 800. For this next part, we're going to have to tape the edges because we're going to spray some clear coat. Regular tape just around the edge like that. Let's see if I can spray it this way. I might have to get some new one. So that's the screen, and I don't see any streaks because it actually kind of flowed down. So hopefully that's going to harden. I actually put too much clear coat and it started running. That's a bad thing, but hopefully that's going to work. I'm going to let this dry for a couple of hours, then I'm going to put another coat on it. I think it looks pretty good. I have to be careful not to. All right, we do get some leakage here, but that's okay. The screen itself looks really good, except right here on the edge. You know, that actually looks pretty good, like nice and clear. So that is the screen. It's not perfect. You can still see, especially in the light over there on that side, there is some imperfections, but I think I'll be able to see the screen. So we're gonna have to clean this up, but I'm going to let this dry. So I put on the computer just so I could see if I could read anything. If you recall, this was in pretty rough shape. So I'm gonna hit the button. I've already plugged it in. Remember, this is still a little bit wet, so I'm not going to use it just yet, but I am going to see if I can see the screen. Push the button, here we go. Look at that, it's actually crystal clear. You can barely tell. Yeah, that's actually really amazing. That's it, guys. That's the Ducati Diavel project. The bike is riding fine. It's just like these little tiny things that we have to sort out before we can really take it on a ride. But the computer screen really makes me happy that I can actually see what's going on it. So hopefully we'll get this bike on the road fairly soon. Stay tuned. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.